Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a 2024 electoral map scenario between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. If we were to see a similar polling error just like we did in the 2022 Senate midterms, and we're going to be applying the polling errors from 2022 on the 2024 presidential electoral map. This was a requested video. But before we get started, make sure you guys are subscribed, click the bell so you don't miss out on my content, press the like button, share this video if you are interested. Don't forget we do have memberships. You can find links to that in the description section. So you're probably wondering why I have Michigan filled out as tilt red. Is because they didn't actually have a Senate race in the 2022 midterm, so I'm going based off the RCP polling averages. And if you take a look at RCP, Trump literally just flipped the state of Michigan, and I actually made a video about that and previously, so you can go ahead and check that out. Also, Minnesota did not have a Senate race as well, so based off the polling averages, the latest ones, it is currently plus 4 to 5 points on average, a lean margin for Kamala Harris, which is why I have Minnesota lean, and Michigan tilt is because they don't have obviously the Senate races from 2022, and I just filled it based off the latest polling data. And same thing for Virginia, obviously didn't have a Senate race, and Florida actually did have a Senate race, but it's going to be likely, obviously, because Republicans, I think, actually overperformed the polling in that state, which is the complete opposite of any other swing state. So let's start off with Nevada, in which in 2022, if you were to apply that polling error on the 2024 electoral map, general election, they had Adam Laxalt right before Election Day winning by 1.5 percentage points. That's a polling error of roughly almost 2%, because Catherine Cortez Masto ended up winning by literally less than a percentage point, around 0.7%. So the polling error was around 2 percentage points. And as of right now, this race is a complete toss-up. You take a look at 538. Nevada is basically 50-50 for either candidate. Even on RCP, Donald Trump is slightly ahead by under a percentage point. So it's basically toss-up. Now, when you apply that 2-point polling miss from the 2022 midterms, Kamala Harris is going to win Nevada by a lean margin of a couple percentage points. So that's where we're at in the state of Nevada. And now moving on to the Sunbelt state of Arizona. This is a border state, a key issue to a lot of the voters out there. Mark Kelly was supposed to win by 1.5 percentage points right before Election Day. He ended up winning it by way more than that, arguably a likely margin of around 5 percentage points instead of the 1.5 he was originally supposed to win this state by. And if you take a look at the latest polls from the state of Arizona, Donald Trump was winning this state on average by around 2 percentage points, 1 to 2, depends what you take a look at. 538, he's up by 1.8 at this current time. On RCP, he's up by around a little over 1 percentage point, obviously. So considering that there was a polling miss of around 4 points, then realistically, Kamala Harris is going to win the state of Arizona by a lean margin in 2024 of basically the similar amount she's winning Nevada by almost 2 percentage points with that 2022 midterms polling error in both of those states. And now moving on to the deep southern state of Georgia, in which right before Election Day, Herschel Walker was actually expected to win by exactly 1 percentage point. And on Election Day, it ended up being Raphael Warnock winning by almost 3 percentage points. That's a polling miss of roughly 4 percentage points. And you take a look at the polls on 538 and RCP, Donald Trump is expected to narrowly win the state of Georgia by around 1 percentage point. So considering there's a 4-point polling miss in the 2022 Senate midterms in the state of Georgia, realistically, if this scenario were to actually play out, then Kamala Harris would win the state of Georgia by a similar amount Herschel Walker ended up losing it by. And now we move on to the state of North Carolina, in which back in the 2022 midterms, Ted Budd was supposed to win by a little bit over 4 percentage points. He realistically won by around 3 percentage points. This was actually one of the more accurate states. They only were off by literally like half of 1 point. It's like 0.5% is the polling error from this state. So it's actually fairly accurate, which is the complete opposite of any other swing state, which severely underestimated the Democrats. And as of right now, if you take a look at 538 averages in RCP, Donald Trump is favored slightly ahead in the state of North Carolina by a little bit under a percentage point at tilt margin. So when you do apply that polling error, Donald Trump actually still ends up winning North Carolina, even if we were to see a polling error from the 2022 midterms play out in the 2024 general election, because North Carolina in 2022 was actually fairly spot on. They predicted Ted Budd would win by 4. He only won by a little bit over 3 percentage points. So that's like a polling miss of half of 1%. So like Donald Trump would win by like 0.3% as an example. And then we move on to some of these Rust Belt states, starting off with Wisconsin, in which they predicted Ron Johnson to defeat Barnes by a little bit over 3 percentage points right before Election Day. That ended up not happening. Instead of that, he actually won by exactly 1 percentage point, as we can see right here. So that's a polling miss of exactly 2 percentage points. And if you take a look at RCP, Kamala Harris is slightly favored in Wisconsin by a tilt margin of under a percentage point. Now, keep in mind, this state back in 2020 had one of the worst polling errors, if not the worst polling error, out of any other swing state. If you do not remember, Biden was ahead by 6 right before Election Day. Obviously, he won it by literally only 0.6, under percentage point, not anywhere near 6 points. Now, if we were to base this off the 2022 midterms polling error, then yes, they were to overestimate Donald Trump by 2 points. And Kamala Harris is already winning this state, so she's actually going to still win it by even a greater amount than just the under 1 point that she's winning already by on 538 in RCP. So she would probably win it by close to 3 percentage points with that polling error. And now we move on to the state of Pennsylvania, in which they projected Dr. Oz to narrowly win by half of 1%. 0.5% was the margin. And obviously, Dr. Oz did not win. He ended up losing pretty significantly, actually. John Fetterman won by a sizable amount. No one expected him to win by nearly 5 percentage points. And a lot of people actually had Dr. Oz winning this race. Even Democratic pollsters, just like I mentioned right now. 538 literally had Dr. Oz winning this race. Severely underestimate Democrats in a number of these races. And that's a polling miss of a little bit over, actually, 5 percentage points. And as of right now in RCP, Donald Trump is the narrow victor in the state of Pennsylvania by under 1 percentage point. So Kamala's going to end up winning this state by a little bit over 4 percentage points. It's going to be a lean margin when you do apply that polling error from the 2022 Senate midterms on the 2024 general election map. And now the last and final state is going to be New Hampshire, in which it's going to go to Harris by a likely margin of over 10 percentage points, actually double digits, based off the 2022 polling error misses. Because in New Hampshire, the Democrat Maggie Hassan was supposed to win by just a little bit over 2 percentage points. She won by 9 points, as you can see right here. So that's roughly a 7% polling miss. And as of right now, on RCP and 530 as well, Kamala Harris is winning New Hampshire by 6 to 7 percentage points. So that would be likely margin for her. She would actually pass 10%. So 288 electoral votes for Kamala Harris, just to finalize the map. To Donald Trump, 250. He will be defeated once again. This is the map. This is exact map for 2024, the general election. When you do apply the 2022 Senate midterms, obviously polling error misses, Kamala Harris would be underestimated, and she ends up winning on Election Day. Let me know what states you agree with or disagree with in the comment section down below. I'm not saying this scenario will happen. Maybe it could. This is not my prediction. But one last final reminder to subscribe. Click the bell so you don't miss out on my content. Press the like button. Share this video. Don't forget we do have memberships. If you are interested, you can find links to that in the description section. That's pretty much it. Thank you everyone for watching.